You know how I always say there is no such thing as Palestinians or Palestine? Well, it's not just me. Listen to Melanie Phillips, a British journalist, broadcaster, and author. She knows what she's talking about. It's about time Israelis start saying it too.
The idea that the Gazans need to be moved out is only part of the story. The idea that the Palestinians as such are a cause that is worthy is one that has to be scotched. It is a misapprehension based on a set of historical illusionary facts that are not facts at all, that has actually driven the Middle East into war for the last century and has knocked, in my view, the entire Western liberal intelligentsia off the moral rails completely. There is no such thing as the Palestinian people. The idea of a Palestine state was never wanted by them. It was devised as part of the explicitly named strategy of stages in order to be a staging point in order to destroy Israel. It is based on Islamic holy war to get rid of the Jews, to get rid of Israel as the Jewish homeland, as a precursor to destroying the West civilization and replacing it by Islamic rule. And consequently, the adoption of the Palestine cause has distorted everything. Basically, what's happened for the last 100 years is that the West has rewarded Palestinian genocidal aggression against the State of Israel and against the Jewish people by promises that they will have a state of their own, by telling them in terms that they're entitled to a state of their own. Now, if you're saying that people who are bent on genocide are entitled to something, then you have lost the moral plot completely, and you incentivize more war, more terror, resulting in, what we all saw on October the 7th, an act of unspeakable barbarity and sadism conducted against Jews as Jews, although others than Israeli Jews were involved as well. So this is an essential precursor, in my view, to saying to the Palestinians as a whole, you're over. You're finished. We don't support this cause. We identify now this cause as utterly bogus. You will get nothing from us in future. There is not going to be a state. You are not entitled to a state. You are not entitled to any more funding from us until you stop this campaign of terror and murder against Israel and the Jewish people. You will get no diplomatic recognition from us. Now, this would be an absolute revolution. It's elementary moral and political reality as far as I'm concerned, but the fact is it is so thoroughly embedded in the whole Western mindset that there is a Palestinian people, there has to be a Palestinian state, that's the route to peace, that it's almost impossible to envisage that happening. What Trump has done by moving the discourse in the way that he has over Gaza, and we've seen the reaction to that, I would hope that's the precursor to some sanity finally emerging over this whole issue. We do know that Saudi Arabia and the other Gulf states have a problem with what's called the Arab Street, a tremendous amount of visceral, fundamental hatred of Israel and the Jews, which in past decades and centuries, they have themselves unleashed. They are responsible for this. Now, we are led to believe, and I believe this is true, that among the Gulf states, put aside Qatar for a moment, Qatar is a rogue state which is identified with the Hamas, with the Muslim Brotherhood. But the other Gulf states and Saudi Arabia understand, we are led to believe, and I believe this is true, that their future and the future of their countries depends upon good relations with Israel. And they wish to normalize those relations. To a large extent, they have been normalized in the last few years. Saudi Arabia has still to come on board. Now, they are, as you say, still saying in public, nothing can happen without a Palestine state. They don't want a Palestine state. They hate the Palestinians, the Palestinian Arabs. The Arab world loathes and detests the Palestinian Arabs. They don't want them anywhere near them. The only people in the world who support the Palestinian Arabs are the Western liberals, unfortunately. Unfortunately for us, that the Western liberals support them. So, I don't believe that they want a Palestine state. The Saudis and the Gulf states would understand that a Palestine state would be a threat to themselves. So, they have to say this. Now, I think that they want, they want to see the people of Gaza and the territories of what's called the West Bank, Judea and Samaria, they want to see them treated decently. They don't want to see them, abused in any way. But on the other hand, I think that they would be open to a settlement of this whole issue, which falls short of a Palestine state, and would accommodate them in other ways. The Palestinian Arabs have been perceived in this way to be the victims of colonial oppression by Israel. This is a complete lie. It is actually Arab colonialism against which Israel is fighting. The intention by the Palestinian Arabs to take over Israel, to exterminate the Jewish homeland and turn it into an Islamic state. But to the Western liberal mind, this is actually resistance. They are entitled to resist what the Western liberal perceives as Israeli colonialism by a resistance movement of which the Hamas is one. And so it is a complete moral deformation of the Western liberal mind based on what they're doing to their own countries. This whole idea of victim culture in our own countries, in Australia, in Britain, in which people who purport to be the members of a victim group, they define themselves as victims and they define everybody else as an oppressor. They are considered to be untouchable. When they do something wrong, they are considered to be untouchable. They can't be held responsible for doing the wrong thing because they are oppressed by the oppressor. And it is the oppressor, who might be white people, might be men, might be heteronormative people, or whatever, who are responsible. And for these purposes, and this is the really terrible kicker as far as the Jewish communities are concerned, Jews are considered to be white oppressors. Now, in Israel, most Jews are not white, actually, believe it or not. Most Israelis are brown or black-skinned. Most Jews are brown or black-skinned, but they're considered to be white because they're considered to be oppressors. And so Jews are considered to be white oppressors, not just in Israel, but in the West. Why? Because Jews, says the modern progressive ho-ho liberal, Jews control everything. They control the economy.
Which is, of course, Melanie, which is, of course,
the banks.